Kia ora, everyone. It's Nathan Rose from Capgemini here in beautiful Auckland, New Zealand. Have you ever wondered how low-code plugins and Power Automate will play together in the Power Platform? This is something I've been thinking about over the past few days. I'm currently preparing my model-driven app demo to predict match winners at the upcoming Men's Rugby World Cup in France in a couple of months' time. And one of the elements of my app that I've been working on this year is a low-code plugin that simulates a coin toss. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is how's that actually going to interact with updates coming from Power Automate. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm pretty excited by what I discovered today, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with you. So let me just quickly share my screen here. So some of you may recall last year I created an app to predict match winners at the Women's Rugby World Cup that was played last year that was using sentiment scores from Azure Sentiment Analysis that was analyzing tweets and news articles about the teams that were playing head to head and using those sentiment scores to predict match winners. Now, something that I thought would be really good to add in this year would be the element of a random coin toss to say, hey, do our predicted winners do our predicted winners align with firstly reality, the actual match winner, and secondly, how accurate are they versus just a random coin toss? And the way I achieved that was by using a low-code plugin on my match data table. And so this low-code plugin simply runs on update of the table, and it compares the status reason. So it's basically saying, if the status reason is equal to not started on update of this table, go ahead and perform a random number between 1 and 2, e.g. heads or tails. And if it's 1, say that the home team's going to win. If it's 2, say that the away team's going to win. So that's how I'm simulating a coin toss in the model-driven app. Now, what's going on in this app when I've got the flows turned on and hooked up to Azure is that every night the flow is going to run. It's going to pull down news articles about the teams that are going head to head. So in this case, the French team versus the All Blacks. It's then going to run those news articles and tweets through sentiment analysis, generate these sentiment scores, and then based on these, I'm just using a Power Effects logical comparison field to predict the winner. So that's all happening in Power Automate. And then the coin toss at the moment is happening in a low-code plugin using Power Effects. Now, just to quickly take you through my thinking about how I think this should work, and if any of you can spot some flaws in my thinking or logic, do call it out in the comments, because again, we're all here to learn. But this is how I'm thinking about this. So my thinking is this plugin should run post operation. So the flow is going to go. It's going to set all of these scores. It's going to save that to Dataverse, and then once that's saved to Dataverse, that's going to trigger the plugin to go and simulate a coin toss. So that's my thinking about how this should work. Now let me show you what actually happens. So at the moment, this plugin is set up to run post operation. So let me just quickly go and perform an edit on this table. Let me go ahead and just save. And what you're going to see happen is we're going to get an error message. Now let me open up this log file and pull this up here for you to see. And it says object reference not set to a reference of an object. Now keep that in your memory, because we're going to come back to this in a few minutes. So that's the error message that we're getting when this runs post operation, which is, to my thinking, which is how this should run. So let's quickly change this to pre-operation. I'm just going to save this quickly. And then let's come back here to our model-driven app and let's save. And you see that we saved without any problems. Let's go ahead and perform another update. And you can see that we're saving without any issues. The coin toss, even though this hasn't changed, it is performing a rand between, so it keeps coming up France. So that's what happens when this runs pre-operation. Now let's flick over to Power Automate and let's have Power Automate perform the update that's going to happen during the tournament and see how this works. So this is my flow. And what I'm doing, I'm just manually triggering this flow. I've hard coded the match data row here into my flow. And then I'm using a rand expression between 1 and 100 to generate fictitious sentiment scores that would be coming down from Azure just to test how this works. So let's go ahead and run the flow. Again, remember our plugin is still running pre-operation, so we shouldn't get any errors. Let's test this and watch it go. We'll run the flow and our flows run. Let's come back here. Let's refresh our row. And you can see that we've got new sentiment scores from the flow and we've got a new coin toss value. So flow has successfully updated these rows and our plugin's been triggered. Awesome. So now let's change this back to post operation where we know we're going to get an error. And let's see what happens in Power Automate. So let's go ahead, let's edit. Let's run this flow again. And as expected, we got an error. Now look at this. This is really cool. Object reference not set to a reference of an object. In Power Automate, we're getting the plugin error message. This is really, really cool. So we're seeing some really nice convergence between low-code plugins and Power Automate. So we're getting that same error message. Now, I'm still not 100% sure as to why I'm getting this error message running the plugin post-op as opposed to pre-op. So again, if any of you have some thoughts around it, do call it out in the comments because again, um, we're all here to learn from one another. So anyone who's got a bit more experience with plugins, do let me know. But I do think it's really cool the way that we've got this convergence across Power Automate and low code plugins in terms of the error messages that we're getting. So now in terms of brass tacks, how should you be integrating low code plugins and Power Automate together in your solutions? So in terms of my solution for this demo for the Rugby World Cup, here's the way I'm thinking about this. So originally I had this as a low code plugin to simulate this coin toss. Now, because the update is coming from Power Automate, because it isn't necessarily a synchronous update, it's coming down nightly as I generate my sentiment scores in Azure. What I'm thinking I'll probably do is just have a compose action as part of my flow with a rand expression to generate that coin toss along with a logical comparison to populate the name of either the home or the away side based on the results of the coin toss. So I'd probably do that in Power Automate as opposed to a low code plugin, just because it's all happening as part of the same process. There isn't a particular reason that it needs to be synchronous. And I've reduced the chances of having an error from a plugin that would then cause my Cloudflow to fail in Power Automate. So that's how I'm thinking about this in terms of these two interacting together. Now there may be times where you where you would either call a low code plugin from Power Automate or you would potentially have them interacting together. But generally speaking, if you need to run your logic in a plugin, then you should do it all in the plugin. Whereas if it's asynchronous, you should probably do most of it within Power Automate. However, as always, there are exceptions. But that's how I'm thinking about this right now. And again, this my opinion could change dramatically as this feature develops and as low code plugins approach general availability. But that's how I'm thinking about this today as it is an experimental feature. But that's an overview of low code plugins playing with Power Automate on the same update of a row. And again, really neat the way we get the same error message in the plugin and in Power Automate. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful.